After practicing with his former team for 3 straight days, the rumors started, and the fantasy of Jordan back in the NBA looks like it might become a reality. The question is, will he or won't he?
I'd love to see Michael come back and play basketball. I think he's great for the game, and he's the best player of all time.
I mean, it's just like riding a bike. I mean, you never forget, and he's going to come back and still be the man. There's no doubt.
I hope he comes back. It'd be nice for the league, and that's all I'm going to say.
I'm glad we got opportunity to play him before Mike officially announces his comeback, because as soon as he announces the comeback, they're the team to beat. I don't care what they say about the Orlandos and the Charlottes and all those young ball clubs. Chicago's the team to beat in the East if Mike's back.
I know the answer. You guys don't. Y'all going to wait and see. End of questions on that.
In his 9 NBA seasons, Jordan forever changed the game of basketball with his unparalleled style. But he also changed the way society worships its sports heroes. He was larger than life, a one-man marketing machine. But after winning his 3rd straight title at the peak of his career, he shocked everyone.
At this particular time in my career, I've reached the pinnacle of my career. I've achieved a lot in that short amount of time, if you want to call it short. But I just feel that I don't have anything else for myself to prove.
Last fall, when Jordan's number 23 was raised to the rafters, it seemed as though a chapter was being closed in his life. Baseball was his new dream. The minor league outfielder had major league aspirations. But the labor strife in that sport caused Jordan to officially end his brief baseball career on Friday. Which brings us to the image everyone longs to see again, Michael Jordan playing basketball. 6 months ago, in a charity game, Jordan looked as if he had never left. And when Ahmad Rashad asked him if he'd ever return, Jordan left the door slightly ajar.
For all the basketball fans, the door is not shut yet, but it's on the way. It's not shut. You never can shut the door on anything, because anything can happen in this world. So it is a tiny, 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 tiny crack. Just real tiny. And will it ever be open again? I never will say never, but it's pretty much close.
A spectacular move by Michael Jordan.
That interview did not take place a long time ago. It was on September 9th. At what point, Peter, did that door start to open just a little wider?
Well, when I talked with Phil Jackson a little while ago, he told me that Jordan told him as long ago as last October that he was thinking about coming out of retirement.
The baseball strike was happening. We talked about the possibility last year. And the thing that was kind of interesting about it was I was kind of baiting him and saying, you know, why are you retiring? You know, you can still come back next season. What if we have a chance to win in the playoffs? You know, you come back for the month of March and April. And he actually took the bait and he said, look, how about 15 games? I said something like 25 games. Play the last 25 games. He said, how about 15 games? I don't know. So anyway, I took that as a sign of hope.
Phil, you're as close to this situation as anybody. What do you think he's going to do?
Pete, I really don't know. My heart says he's going to come back and play, and you know, that's just wishful thinking right now, or wishful feeling. But I'm not sure what he's going to do, and I think he's going to wait it out another week and probably come back and see us maybe Monday and Thursday. We got a couple practices, and you'll see how it goes from there.
One of the biggest concerns he has to have is that he measures up to what he was before he left. Now, you've watched him practice. How does he measure up?
I won't say he's as good as ever. His shooting isn't there. But, you know, we've let him play a competitive situation just to see his defense, his ability to facilitate the offense, help everybody else along is always there. And his defensive competitiveness is continual. And, you know, it would just be a matter of time before I think he found that shooting touch.
But knowing his personality, Phil, would you think he'd come back if he wasn't the same dominant player that he was before?
I don't think there's a doubt in Michael's mind that he couldn't come back and be as dominant as he was before. I think he may feel he may not be able to shoot it quite as well right now, and he may not have the conditioning or the strength and endurance that the game takes when he starts out. But I don't think he has any doubts in his mind that he can return to the same form that he left it.
Peter, you've also been talking with Bulls owner Jerry Reinsdorf throughout the weekend. What about this alleged announcement that Michael Jordan's going to make on Monday about his decision?
He says he knows nothing about it, and he says it would be very uncharacteristic of Michael to do something like that without telling him first, and he's going to be very hard to get. He's on his way to Florida today for the baseball talk. I asked him when they talked last Thursday, did he know which way he was leaning, and he said he couldn't tell, but he would just be very, very surprised if Michael would not play any sport this season. Golf, anyone?
Exactly, which is where you spent some time with Michael Jordan on the golf course and in other situations. What do you think he's going to do, Doc?
Well, I was at Michael's retirement in November, and I played golf with him in January. We talked about a lot of things, but Michael's not coming back to play basketball. I'd be hard-pressed to feel that he's going to come back. He's going to give up the freedom that he enjoys right now. People search their whole life, you know, for freedom and security and independence. How's he going to come back to a game where the rules and regulations and curfews, you know, Michael's not going to become a 10-day contract player and prostitute the game of basketball by coming back for 15 games in the playoffs. I just don't see it.
Interesting. So you don't think he's coming back, but maybe you, as a former superstar, have a more realistic view of the sacrifices that he would have to make if he does come back to the game. Meanwhile, the speculation continues. What would Michael's return to the Bulls mean to the balance of power in the NBA? Well, let's go back to Marv Albert and Bill Walton and check in with them in Orlando.
All right, Hannah, first of all, I think it would be a bombshell. It's just startling if Michael does not come back, in particular after hearing what Phil Jackson had to say. There's been so much speculation as to what the date would be, and if Michael happens to be tuned in, I'd like to say on behalf of all of us at NBC, we have a very fine Chicago at Indiana game, Bill, next Sunday afternoon. It would be just perfect. In terms of the balance of power for the rest of the league, it's incredible how one guy can affect it all. How long would it take for Jordan to be in what would be considered top form?
Every coach always says that, hey, we're just one guy away. Well, that guy just happens to be Michael Jordan for the Chicago Bulls, but Jordan could come out right away and get 54 points, which would be the league high this year, surpassing Willie Burton's. Jordan's strength is that his game is based on fundamentals. It's not based on physical skill. So as he gets older, he can still be the game's greatest player. At first, there would be a situation where he would come out for the first week to 10 days, he'd be spectacular. Then a little bit of a drop-off because the physical conditioning would catch up to him. But then as the playoffs get into full swing, he would be right there, and Chicago would be at the top with Orlando in the East.
So you see 54 points in that first game tonight.
That's the only appropriate thing, and I think that this would significantly hurt the New York Knicks psychologically.
All right, let's get back to Hannah.